give you a sense of control with what you're doing, a sense of familiarity, and this leads to higher levels of intrinsic motivation. You're more likely to enjoy what you're doing. You're more likely to be confident through having this sense of familiarity, and you're more likely to have less anxiety or to not be too over anxious and worried and see the anxiety as negative. So routines for rugby players at any level, they should be there and embedded in your training, your day-to-day life, what you're doing, and of course your performance and in the game. So I'm going to go a little bit into how routines can be used differently in terms of preparation during the week and in the actual game, and how they can differ. How you can use routines by combining the physical routines you have with mental skills and mindset routines, and then a little bit more building on why they're important and how they're important. So if you're a rugby player right now and you do not use routines and things are going really well, it's likely that at some stage in your career you're going to get to a point where you come into a very unfamiliar situation, which usually can lead to a spike in anxiety. And without routines, it's where you can kind of crumble, or where you can't go to the next level, okay, or where your confidence can be affected, you're over anxious, you can start to worry a lot. So even if you feel very comfortable at whatever level you're at, just remember, around the corner, perhaps you're stepping up a competition. Okay, perhaps you're stepping up a team. You might be changing positions. All right, you might be going from schoolboy to club rugby, representative rugby, making a final, whatever it is. Maybe you're going into the professional ranks. Okay, and that jump, that change in environment can be a big sort of a big change and a big thing for people to overcome, and a lot of the time it can be that make or break moment where people, you as we talk about with anxiety, you can either move away and run or walk towards it and sort of grow and learn. So if you have strong routines, then they're going to help to bridge that gap. They're going to help you to remain more calm, more focused, keep your confidence levels, have familiarity, control, and intrinsic motivation about what you're doing. You're much more likely to carry that through and be successful in that next level, that next jump up, okay, or in the big finals game that's coming up, okay, whatever that change in circumstances. One of the things I get messaged about the most is the change in circumstance, whether it's a player that's moved overseas to a new environment, okay, a player that's going from schoolboy, as I said, to club rugby. It might be a big game coming up, there's a big rivalry, okay, whatever it is, that with that pressure, that unfamiliar environment, unfamiliar feeling, when it comes, if you're not prepared through mindset, then it can really cripple you. And for a lot of players, it can get to the point you don't even want to be there, you don't want to play, you want to give up. You're wondering how to deal with it. So my advice to any player, okay, is to build strong routines. If you're a young player, for sure. If you're in the professional ranks, I'm sure you probably have some already. So if you don't, then make them stronger, okay? Build mindset and mental skills into those routines, okay? So let's just go through an example about a routine. So for example, if you're looking at game day, a lot of us have some sort of routine or physical routine anyway. And the power is when you can build in mindset and mental skills routines alongside that, and you can align it. So you already have a sense of control, but with the mindset stuff, you can start to look at the overcoming or controlling your arousal and anxiety. Okay, building your confidence, building that sense of being in the moment throughout the day. All right, and I'd like to stress as well, every player is different. All right, so when you switch on, when you start building your routine, it might be completely different to everyone else. The things you do could be completely different, and that's all okay. You've got to remember that it's probably the key foundational thing with mental skills and mindset is we're all different human beings, and whatever works for you works for you. And it's at times it's about trying different things, seeing what works, learning from it. And there's going to be some failing there probably, but seeing it as an opportunity to grow and learn. So here's an example, a routine. You could pull out your journal, okay? This idea, the actual journal, I think it was Dan Carter. I was reading article about him. So he would pull out his journal the night before a game and write down some key words where he wanted to direct his attention and keep it very simple. So it might be something like accurate, it might be energy and confidence, something like that, keeping it very simple. Okay, with the game coming up, that's where we wanted to direct his attention. That's where keywords work great when you use them to direct your attention. And my belief is that if you the more simple you keep it, the better. Okay, so just keep it very simple. Action words work great as well. Okay, so words where you're not having to think too much, but there's an action behind it, like perhaps power, okay, dominate, whatever it is. All right, so he sort of started that, and then that sort of is where he started to really switch in and started to think about mindset stuff. He might have done it earlier, I'm not sure, but it's certainly something that he did use. You might wake up on the game, and there might be just a walk by yourself, just to be in the moment, out in nature. Okay, just not to think too much, just to gather everything. All right, and then there might be a point where you decide to use imagery. So perhaps driving to the game, you're doing some imagery, thinking about and trying to imagine where you're going to end up, how you're going to play, what's going to work, how you're going to feel, what's the reaction from people going to be, your teammates. Okay, and then you're thinking about you're imagining the success, the feeling of being confident, maybe imagining something going wrong, how you're going to deal with it. Okay, you get anxious, you get in the red, how are you going to deal with it? What are your coping mechanisms? You go through that through imagery. All right, just as an example. And at some point, you really want to be able to flick that switch 100% somewhere. Well, most players should sort of have that, whether that's the morning, just before the game, an hour before. I'm not sure. It works really different for everyone, but as part of your routine, you can have that in there as well. When you're stretching, you might, again, stretching before the game might be a really, really nice way to get into the moment. Okay, and just with anxiety, something I really recommend is to have in your routine on game day is a time where you're just in the moment, away from thinking. Okay, because thinking can lead potentially to arousing anxiety in a negative way. Okay, and obviously when you're in the moment and your body fully attentive of what you're doing, you're away from thought. So that's a recommendation from me, is to build that in somewhere. Okay, I mentioned that in the walk in the morning, stretching, and whatever it is. And then it might be when the same keywords in your journal from the night before, you write on your wrist. Okay, and you really, that perhaps is a time where you flick the switch about an hour, you're going out to warm up. And when you leave that shed, you leave with the same mindset that you leave going to the game. Okay, so that's really, you're going out ready to play. All right, this is just all examples of what you can do. That's kind of the game prep. It's very, very general. It's about taking different parts and making whatever works for you work. And I know that from the people that I work with and the clients and the people I receive messages from, they all have very different ways of doing things, which is all good. There's nothing wrong with that at all. We all have different backgrounds and we learn from different ways from different people. So that's fine. But that's just a quick example of how you can build in the routine of what you're doing physically and then build in through aligning that with your mental mindset. And for routines to work really well, it's about practicing them in the week in training or in conditioning sessions as well. Maybe in your business life, at work, school, whatever it is, you're going to do a speech, whatever it is, try and use the same tools, because like weight training, the more you do it, the more effective it is, the more you grow, the stronger it gets. The mind's just the same. The stronger the neurons, the stronger the connections between the neurons, okay, are going to be, the more you do it, whatever the routine is, the more comfortable you're going to get with it. So, for example, if we're using that game day, there's a point where you use imagery, use it in training. Okay, so on the way to training, same thing. Can you use imagery? Okay, you're going to do your stretching to bring you in the moment. And when you leave the training shed, you get in that mindset of playing. Okay, so you're in the mindset of being in the zone, and whatever it is, the values that you define when you go and play, whether that's hard work, intensity, however you build that. And a conditioning session, same thing. Get to a point where you can do some imagery around how you're going to do that weight session, how it applies to a game. Okay, the things like intensity that are important, and then you go and do that, and you're building the routines, and you're building the more you do, the better they're going to work. As simple as that. And you can do these routines for hours and hours. There's nothing stopping you. You don't need to be down a training paddock. You don't need equipment. That's a great thing about mindset. Okay, if it's using your journal, again, before you go to the gym, maybe jot some keywords. Where do you want to direct your attention in that session? If it's a speed session, it might be something like quick, okay, accurate, whatever, okay, off the mark, something. You're working on getting off the mark, if that's what it is, okay? And then, as I said, if you're doing a speech, you're at school, you're at work, you've got a big presentation coming up, again, use the same skills, use the same mindset, mental skills. All right, use the imagery, imagine it, look at the people, imagine the crowd, go through your delivery, be very comfortable with it, okay, be very familiar with it, and then you should notice the anxiety isn't there as much because it's not such a big scary thing that you have no idea about, okay, so there's so much you can go into here, guys. I just want to give you a few tasters so that you can build your own and start to incorporate whatever you do into your own routines. But that's just a little snapshot as in the preparing for a game and how you want to use it during the week. Okay, as I said, much like strength training, you need to get those reps in. You need to fire and wire the neurons, okay, in your brain like you do with your muscles through firing the motor units and recruitment of the muscles that you're going to use, and the neurons. It's the same thing. They're connecting pathways first. So strength training, about the first 6 weeks, is all about the neural activation and pathways. It's where most of your gains come from. Okay, so in the game, again, you can have pre-performance routines. So a goal kicking is obviously, one that's spoken about a lot because kickers have that time to go through their routines. So it's about coming into the moment, focusing your attention. Breathing's obviously a great thing to do there. Triggers work great for goal kicking. Imagery, positive self-talk, affirmations, all of these things can help, okay, with goal kicking for sure. And then other areas in the game. So set piece is a great time where you can have a routine, okay, to break down whatever you're doing, where you can use a trigger, get grounded, deep breathing, breaks in the game. If a try has been scored, build a routine in. Try and think about where's a need for you, okay, where's a really big need for you. If it's your line out throwing, okay, as a hooker, it's obviously very important, and you're not doing great, puts you off your game, build a really strong routine around your line out, build it into your training, conditioning, and over time you're gonna see a lot of improvement in that, especially performing under pressure, performing when there's a lot of expectation there. Okay, so you can start to change your relationship you have with pressure in different ways. So set piece, breaks, even in broken play. Okay, even in broken play, especially, just obviously your time's cut down a bit depending on what you're doing, but if you're someone out on the wing, you have a lot of time, okay, it can be something to do visually around imagery, keeping your attention very wide and not too thin. So an affirmation around that, okay, some cues that lead you to trying to do the performance aspects that you're aiming for are really great. And that's where, as a player, you should have your performance broken down, okay, working with your coach. Break that down further into some keywords, okay, 5 max. I think less is more, less is better, less is more, as they say. Break that down and then think about how can you build in some affirmations. When can you use deep breathing? When can you use a trigger that's very simple, that just reminds you to stay in the moment and not drift too much to the past or too much to the future. All right, and then you build that into your game. So everyone should, if you play any sport really, you should have routines. Okay, if you have a high performance job, at work, school, whatever it is, routines, again, they work just as well. They use them really a lot for kindergarten kids. Okay, and you see them, routines are very strong, and it's the same principle. Keeps kids calm. Okay, they're familiar with what they're doing. Anxiety's very balanced. It's not too high. Okay, and they're able to be confident with what they're doing. So guys, my free guide has a breakdown of different skills that you can then start to try and apply to the routines that you want to do. There's a section on routines there too, pre-performance routines. So I hope I've given you a bit of a background around it and enough so that you can start to build your own routines, because they're really so important. It's great skills to have. So yeah, good luck with that. Give it a go.